Yeah, I'm doing just phenomenal because I did not say on the radio that Washington was going to change its name to the Admirals. So I'm feeling pretty good about my place on this radio station. We'll get more of that later on. But look, I've been thinking a lot about it since the story first broke while we were on the air. And I should mention, we are going to have Brian's legal team that you may have seen on TV earlier this morning joining us in studio. And we have asked again that Brian join them. I don't believe he's going to, but listen, he's in New York. He's with his lawyers, and there's a chance that maybe he does show up with them. Again, I don't believe that he will. We've been told that it's unlikely that he will join his lawyers when they come into our studio, but they will join us at 3 o'clock today, and I'm holding out hope that Brian will join us, and here's why. You're putting yourself out there as a trailblazer, someone willing to attack the establishment and fight for the rights, frankly, of other black men and women who have felt wronged by the NFL and their hiring practices. So you are putting yourself out there as a leader of the cause, recognizing that it's most likely, not guaranteed, of course, but it's most likely going to damage your ability to ever get a job again in your chosen profession. I respect that kind of trailblazing. I don't know how you don't. For those of you that might not see it that way. So, going on TV is a lot different than going on radio in that radio provides a forum and a platform for a long-form discussion. TV just doesn't allow that, and that's nobody's fault. It's just the nature of TV. There's a limited amount of time to really get into things that are worthy of getting into. We did let the lawyers know that, we'll do that break-free and give him the opportunity to really get into the nitty-gritty of what we're all talking about here. My hope is that they are listening right now before they get in their Uber cars and come down to the studio and consider the fact that radio offers that opportunity that TV doesn't.
And also, we're New Yorkers. As a fellow New Yorker, because I watched him this morning on CBS and ESPN, a chance to sit down with two true New Yorkers.
Yeah, now listen, and it's not about us. Yeah, selfishly, it's great for us. But listen, this is a legitimate issue that we got to discuss. And he's at the forefront of it. So let's discuss it long form and get into it. A couple things that happened since we left the air yesterday. One of them is Hugh Jackson, who was, just record-wise, a terrible coach from record-wise, in his time with the Cleveland Browns, who came out and said, listen, I experienced something similar to what Brian claimed he dealt with Stephen Ross, which was an owner saying, hey, lose games.
Yeah, he flat out said Jimmy Haslam was offering him money to lose games.
Yeah, so, that's a tough one because, for a lot of reasons, obviously. There's not a fan alive that has the right, in my opinion, to come out today and go, I can't believe Stephen Ross and or Jimmy Haslam in Cleveland wanted their team to lose to get a better draft pick or a particular player in a draft. Every fan has asked their teams to do that.
A fan is not an owner.
I know that.
Well, you just said we don't have a right to say that.
No, the fan can't go, I can't believe it. You begged your team to tank for this guy or throw games for that guy.
No.
100%. Tank for Tua.
It's different.
Suck for Sam.
Yeah, but it's different.
Right?
Man. It's different.
Now, the owner can't do it. But the fan base coming out today going with this holier than thou, I can't believe they were willing to or wanted their coach to lose games to get Joe Burrow. You beg them to. So I just don't want to hear fans bitching about that.
Well, you're going to hear it because you're wrong. It's just not the same thing.
I want to be clear. I'm not saying it's the same thing.
We have a right as fans to say, hey, we're better off losing, but also look at an owner who's offering money to their coach lose
I agree.
And say that's wrong.
I agree.
It's not a contradiction.
100%.
I disagree.
100%. Which is not the major issue here today, obviously, but
you said it. I mean,
well, because I'm reading everything on Twitter going, this is reprehensible.
It is,
but you beg them to do it too
because it's different, dude.
But listen to what I'm saying.
I am. You're wrong.
It's different. An owner can't tell his team to lose games.
Right.
But a fan can't go, I can't believe the owner did that, when you beg them to do the same thing.
When we have the discussion of tanking games, we also have that discussion knowing that it's not a real thing.
Oh, we do?
Yes. Like when we're watching the Jets lose games, you're rooting for them to lose games. You're not actually thinking that Woody Johnson or Christopher Johnson or Joe Douglas is saying, come on, let's lay down, fellas. Let's lose. And in the industry that we are in now, with so much gambling in sports, this can't happen.
I agree.
So I don't think at all it's a contradiction for a fan to say, I'd prefer my team to lose, and then also rip an owner for saying, hey, I'm going to pay my coach to lose. Completely different.
We're in agreement on the latter part of it. An owner cannot tell his team to lose games.
Right.
Especially nowadays because the NFL is in bed with gambling.
Right.
Something that, by the way, they fought to the bitter end and spent $10 million a year on lobbyists to let the government know why gambling would be the end of professional sports as we know it.
Now they love it.
Now all of a sudden, like the NFL is the most duplicitous bunch of scumbags literally on this planet. That's just what they are, and that includes the owners, that includes the commissioner, and everybody involved at the highest level.
It includes the fact that within an hour of this lawsuit coming out, they had the arrogance, and I think that's the word, to come out and say, oh, this is all baseless, meritless claims.
Yeah.
You haven't done any research. How do you know it's meritless?
Right. They couldn't have barely read the thing once. It's 58 pages long, but their immediate reaction is, nope, nonsense. Don't look at the big white elephant in the room, which is clearly comical and just goes to their hubris, which is what they're all about. But this now becomes, let's break it down to the local level, right? We recognize, it's not a big surprise that the NFL has been really lousy at hiring minority men or women for head coaching jobs. Like, that's not a news flash, right? There's one black head coach in the NFL, and he's been there for almost 20 years. It's Mike Tomlin. So this is not a news story.
Right.
This is just a guy willing to call them on it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's all this is. Like,
it's someone a part of the process to say, hey, we all know the numbers. We all have the numbers. We know how poorly the NFL's done over the years, but here's a guy who's also experienced it, who can cite specific examples of, hey, when I interviewed for this job, this was a sham. This happened to me. That happened to me. But you're right. Like, we all knew. We were talking about this for a few weeks. We all have about the embarrassing numbers concerning black head coaches in the NFL.
Now, and here's the aspect to this, which has really made this lawsuit, in my opinion, possible. And it's twofold. The first part of it, if Bill Belichick doesn't text Brian Flores with the text we've all read now, thinking he's texting Brian Daboll, clearly, it makes this lawsuit almost impossible because he did ultimately get interviewed for a job. That happened. He may have surmised it didn't seem like I had a shot at it, but the Giants easily could have said, no, listen, we interviewed you. We interviewed him. We valued the interview.
Right.
We gave it consideration. We went with Daboll. And no one's going to argue that. So the Belichick text is the smoking gun. I know people here don't want to hear this, but it's a reality. When someone as credible as my dear friend Boomer Esiason, puts out a sportsman and says Daboll was offered the job a week ago, but they couldn't announce it or sign the dotted line until they went through the formality, a.k.a. the Rooney Rule interviewing of a minority candidate before they announced it. I'm sorry, but that is part of the story because someone in the know told Boomer that that's what took place. That goes against the Rooney Rule. Now, here's just so you people understand this. The Rooney Rule, or a breaking of the Rooney Rule, is not illegal. It's not criminal. It's not, oh, my God, like we got to shut down the NFL. The Rooney Rule is established by the NFL, as you all know, to make sure minority candidates have a seat at the table when it comes to jobs like head coach, right? If you don't follow the Rooney Rule, there are penalties that are in place, financial penalties and draft penalties. It is not about going to criminal court because they did or didn't interview the right candidate.
But equal employment opportunity is.
Separate, right. So I just want to be clear about the Rooney Rule specifically.
The Rooney Rule, look, the violation of the Rooney Rule is more what will the NFL do about it?
Correct.
How will the NFL punish a team that broke those rules? But no, the worry law-wise is equal employment opportunity.
Absolutely, which is involved, but also a very separate thing. All right? So I just want to make sure people understand what the Rooney Rule is. The Rooney Rule doesn't put you in criminal court. Doesn't put you in federal court.
But you know what it does?
Hiring practices.
Yes.
Or a proof of hiring practice in which minorities are not given the same opportunities as their Caucasian counterparts is something
but you know what it
that
does?
is actionable.
Here's what's important. Brian Flores said this earlier today. I believe him. He said, I'm doing this to enact change.
Great.
Okay. Showing the Rooney Rule's flaws can help enact change.
Okay.
So,
Good.
yeah, showing the New York Giants clearly skirted the rules, and other franchises may have as well, is not breaking the law. Obviously, you're right. But what it may do is force the NFL to say, okay, we've tried this for 20 years. We've altered it over the years, including the last few years. This doesn't work. We've got to try something different. So if it's about change, and I believe it is, then that's what this lawsuit can do.
Yeah, listen, and hopefully there is change. Hopefully minority candidates do get a better crack at it because clearly there's going to be a number, I'm sure there already have been, and there'll be many more down the line who are deserving of the opportunity.
Well, think about this.
Who will be successful, who never get that crack.
35% of assistant coaches are black. 35%. And certainly you could say that's not a big enough number, which is fair. That number is not equal to the percentages of head coaches that are black.
Not even close.
It's not even close.
Yes.
So I think a while ago, it was about not enough minorities getting opportunities to be on coaching staffs. While they're still not there to where they need to be, there's clearly been improvement, no doubt. But when it comes to head coaching, the numbers are the numbers.
Yeah, and I want to say one other thing before we get your calls, and we'll take your calls throughout the entire day, and we're going to talk to Brian's lawyers. And again, my fingers are crossed that Brian decides to hop in the car. I have no expectation that he will. I think it'd be smart for him to, and I think it'd be great if he did. But if he doesn't, he doesn't. I can't make him get in the car and come here to be on the show. I want to say this. I want to be very clear about it. All right, because I think it's out there, and I don't think it's fair that this particular phrase is out there. The New York Giants are not a racist organization. They're being painted as being old racists. I don't believe for a minute that the New York Giants act in a manner that would be consistent with you being able to accuse them of being racist. I really think that's important because, while I think they try to skirt the Rooney Rule in this particular case, and what's interesting about that is when they announced that Shane, was the new GM, I said on this radio show, Brian Daboll's the new head coach of the Giants. I didn't need to know anything else. Familiarity, right? Connected to success. Like, I thought Flores was going to get the gig before then. Shane gets the job. I said on this show, we replayed it. I think you may have agreed with me on it. Daboll becomes overnight the obvious number one candidate, right? So I'm not surprised that Daboll got the job. But I think I don't think it's fair that the Giants are being labeled as just, Ku Klux Klan racist.
No.
Come on.
Skirting the Rooney Rule and really kind of laughing at it and using it as let's just get it out of the way. Does that make one racist?
I don't think it does.
No, I agree with you. I made that point to you yesterday. But
it makes them stupid.
It makes them stupid,
That's all.
It makes them, they didn't handle the process correctly. But
Right.
one thing you're seeing with general managers who hired, and we've seen this over the years, is it's a relationship business. We've all known that.
Yep.
Like the odds are when you hire a general manager who has a past history with a hot offensive coordinator, there's a really good chance that person's going to hire him.
And not only that, this is how it played out. They wanted Daboll. They know Daboll, Shane does personally for the last how many years they've been together. The Dolphins had an interest in Daboll. They wanted to get it done. But then they recognized, wait a minute. We can't just sign you and announce it. We do have to interview a couple, minority candidates from outside the organization. Hang tight, big fella. We got you. Let's go through the motions, interview the other guys, and bang, as soon as Flores leaves the room, get on the phone with Daboll's agent and give him the paperwork. I mean, that's how this happened. So are the Giants racist? No. Are the Giants stupid? Maybe. Did they get nervous they were going to lose their favorite candidate? Most likely. But they're not racist. In terms of getting thrown around a lot about people with no backing for it whatsoever. The hiring practice of the NFL for minority men and women sucks. Not up for debate. Doesn't make them racist. But it sucks, and it needs to be made better. So we'll get into it with you. 877-337-6666. The other side of it, which I think is, a new side of it that I'd never contemplated before, because the hiring practices have been a topic for 20 plus years, Evan, as you know. But the gambling part of this is a big part of it. The notion that an owner or multiple owners encourage their coach to lose games, knowing that the NFL is in bed with gambling sites now, is a real problem for the integrity of the sport.
No question. And you know where that's going. I could tell you this right now, within the next 3 years, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's a big deal or not, we're going to have a lottery in the NFL. We're going
like
there.
the NBA does, you mean?
Like the NHL, like the NBA, like baseball's about that.
In other words, if you come in dead last, you're not guaranteed the first pick. Therefore, tanking doesn't necessarily help you out.
Yeah, because there's now enough, not evidence, but there's enough talk about owners wanting their teams to lose between the accusations against Stephen Ross, now the accusations against Jimmy Haslam. They've talked openly, the lawyers who will be with us in a little bit, that there are others who can say, hey, this happened to me too, not just with the unfair hiring practices, but with the tanking, where the NFL is going to have to do something about it.
Yeah, they have no choice. Right. At this point, they have no choice because now you've got two coaches saying, I was told the same exact thing. Whether they were or they weren't, it's a he said, and I don't know how you prove it without a text message, a phone call, an email, and I'm assuming you're not going to get that. I'm assuming the owner's going to say...
They'll never admit that, no.
If they say anything at all, which I doubt they'll even speak to it, come on, man. Yeah, he knows I was just fooling around, which I don't think they'll even say that.
Right.
But yeah, so I think the only way the NFL has to go now is, if you didn't make the playoffs, we're going to the barrel of ping pong balls.
And by the way, that doesn't help tanking in the NBA. They have a lottery system and teams still tank. Yeah. So it's not like it works that effectively. Yeah. But that's what's coming. I mean, to me, that's how the NFL is going to combat that accusation against them. And if there's evidence that it happened, like hard evidence that Stephen Ross did that, he can't own a team.
I agree, 100%. The sport's got no integrity at all if that's what took place. And I don't know how you prove it without a tangible email or text message or phone message.
It's tough.
But if it happened... he can't be a part of the NFL. You just can't. The NFL would have zero integrity at that point. Let's go USFL. Come to Papa. Anyway, we'll get all your calls. Lots cooking. The lawyers will join us at 3 o'clock to go over this. We got lots to do, and we'll do it with you all afternoon long.